Hey, it's Travis. I wanted to take this moment to discuss our sponsor, BetterHelp. I used to think talking to a therapist was a sign of weakness until I started talking to one. It has really helped me limit the negative chatter that can infiltrate my brain. Therapy has helped me become a more insightful person, father, and husband. That's why I'm excited to tell you about BetterHelp. Their online platform makes finding a therapist incredibly easy. Fill out a brief questionnaire and you will be matched with a therapist in just a few days. Go to betterhelp.com/thank you notes, betterhelp.com/thank you notes, or click the link in my show notes. In doing so, you will be helping the show and you will receive 10% off your first month. If you aren't clicking with your therapist, if you're not getting a good vibe, BetterHelp will allow you to switch your therapist at any time with no additional cost. Online therapy is a game changer for me. I have such an erratic schedule. I work nights, weekends, late, early, holidays, you name it. Being able to video call my therapist from my phone in a call room, at work, or in my car, or whatever, it's extremely convenient for me, and it allows me the time and the place to actually get my therapy in. So if you're struggling, if you need to talk to somebody, go to betterhelp.com/thank you notes and they'll get you set up with somebody. This has been my thank you note to BetterHelp for supporting this show. Hey, thank you noters, it's Travis. I know it's been a while, but I couldn't sit on this episode any longer. I had a nice chat with Dr. Sam Silverman. He's a psychiatrist and stand-up comedian from Southern California. We have been trading witticisms on Instagram for a while, so we thought we would try it virtual face to virtual face. He's a funny, real, genuine guy that I hope I get to spend more time virtually or realistically in the future. So anyway, let's get to my talk with Dr. Sam Silverman.
Well, are you doing all right? I think I'm almost better. Are you doing all right? Not about as good. About as good as it gets anymore.
Another episode of the Thank You Notes podcast. I'm joined today by Dr. Sam Silverman, who's a psychiatrist and stand-up comedian. Thank you for coming on, Sam.
Thanks so much for having me, Travis. I appreciate it.
So a little background, Sam and I met on the Instagram because he posts a lot of these funny reels and clips of his stand-up, and I would always try to tag it with something funny, and he and I got into some banter, and so I thought it would be good for us to maybe try this banter over Zoom in a podcast format, and so here we are.
Yeah, I already used one of your tags in one of my shows, just to let you know. Yeah.
Let me hear it. Which one did you use?
What did I do? I did it was something about not being friends with a psychiatrist, and you said that I wouldn't want to be anybody, or I wouldn't want to be friends with anyone who's friends with a psychiatrist. And I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, the post was like that you can't be friends with your patients because you're a psychiatrist and it's unethical. So it immediately made me think of I wouldn't want to be a member of a club that would have me as a member.
Yeah.
And so I spun it around and put it as a tag for that thing. So I'm glad you liked it.
Oh, I thought it was great. It's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my tags get more heady as I get down in there, and it's a pretty heady one, so I liked it.
So let's go back to Sam, the medical student. What kind of medical student were you?
I was a pretty intense, quiet medical student for the most part. Like I definitely had friends and other things like that. But yeah, I went to medical school in Philadelphia. My wife, now girlfriend at the time, she was doing her master's out in California. And so I just kept on telling myself I got to study as hard as I can to get out to California. And so, yeah, I was a relatively intense student. I think started to really get a lot more confidence in medical school, which is really cool. I got a weird brain. I can memorize some stuff. And so it just paved the way to be able to do that. And yeah, then third year came around and I became an anxious medical student. I always was an anxious medical student, but it really started to come out because I was in that clinical setting with people.
Anxious about what?
Predominantly doing harm to patients and looking like an idiot, not knowing what I'm doing. Yeah, those two things for the most part.
Yeah.
Did you know you wanted to be a psychiatrist when you went to medical school?
I went in thinking I was going to do primary care, and it wasn't until third year that I really started thinking I would want to do psychiatry. And it was just as I was doing rotations, I started to get more gravitated to whatever kind of psychiatric element was there in that rotation. I was really interested in, and I did my OB rotation at a place where you had a lot of people on methadone and Suboxone. I was interested in neonatal with opiate withdrawal and those types of things. And just going into those psychosocial elements and then psychiatry, I just really liked my rotation and said, this is what I'm going to do. And I told my therapist wife, and she was pissed. She wanted me to go do something totally different. But yeah, that's how I ended up. Actually, I tell a lot of jokes about how I decide that, but that is actually how I ended up
Hmm.
making that decision.
I would say that the psychiatry was the one thing I knew I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story from my psychiatry rotation. I did not enjoy it. UT Houston, where I went to medical school, has one of the only like in psychiatric like incarceration hospital clinic that
Oh,
they let
yeah.
med students run through. So people
Yeah.
that get picked up on the street and everything, and they have like their 72-hour window, they get sent to this place, and then med student me would walk in and try to assess these people, and I was so miserable. And I had this
Yeah.
lady who was so I don't I to this day I don't know what was wrong with her, but she was very violent and she was screaming all the time. And so I went in one morning to talk to her, and she starts screaming and she's getting in my face. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, please hit me. I knew I could get out of the rest of the rotation if she struck me. But when the attending saw this, he rushed over and essentially got her out of my face and everything. He was like, I saw that and you almost got hit. I was like, oh, are you serious? And so
Yeah.
I had to do the rest of the rotation. And
That's brutal. Yeah.
mhm.
I didn't see anybody get clocked in my third year, but I did have a medical student classmate, a good buddy of mine, who saw his attending get hit real hard on his
Mm.
last day. So yeah, it definitely can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's I guess we can get into that because that's what I thought psychiatry was like. It was all like babbling to yourself and
Yeah.
screaming, and it's not at all like that, is it?
No, it's not at all like that. And even when you get down into psychotic processes and people that are more disorganized, even then, it's not all like that. Yeah, we see a lot of different things. We really
Hmm.
do. Yeah.
So, what kind of practice do you find yourself in? I guess it's outpatient clinic based, or tell me more about it.
Yeah, I'm in a multi-specialty group. I'm one of four psychiatrists, but I think we have 200 physicians. And yeah, I'm one of four psychiatrists there, only outpatient. I take Medicare, and not a lot of people do in the area. And my population is skewed a little bit older. I would say that probably certainly the median age is well into their 60s there for patient population. But I do see people 18 and above. I don't see any children and adolescents anymore. And I see, because I take insurance in Santa Barbara, I see a really cool, and because I also take Medicare in Santa Barbara there, I see a lot of cool stuff in terms of people are really well off, really fortunate. And I have people who are homeless, who are in and out of prison, other things like that. I see a lot of sick people, and I really see the whole spectrum of different things. I definitely see a lot of mood disorders, a lot of personality disorders, a lot of anxiety disorders, a lot of psychosis. Yeah, I just see the whole wash there.
Hmm. And how long have you been at that position?
5 years, 5 years.
5 years. When
Yeah.
did you get out and do your psychiatry training?
I went straight from residency.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife is from here,
Yeah.
and I very much was wanting to, and actually had started the onboarding process where I was doing my psychiatry residency. I did at Loma Linda University outside LA, and was going to stay on there on faculty, and just decided I wanted it to be a little bit more low key in my life, control my hours a little bit more, and have kids, raise a family. And we thought that was the best thing to do. So called an audible in the 11th hour of my fourth year, and been here ever since.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, are you all face to face, or do you do any telehealth?
I would say it's 50-50 right now. So I never did any telehealth prior to the pandemic. And then my first son was born March of 2020. So in person, came back from, I only took 2 weeks of paternity leave because, of course, doctors don't take enough time for themselves. I would say now it's probably 50-50. The most annoying part about that is that you're oscillating back and forth between in-person and remote. It does a pretty good approximation for most people, I would say.
Okay. Let's get into the stand-up comedy. When did you start doing that?
I started doing that beginning of my fourth year residency. So I've been doing it for
Oh.
a little over 6 years. Yeah.
And what prompted you to do that?
There's a couple of things. As residency can destroy you, but fourth year, whenever that is your final year, less and certainly moves in that way. I'd also done my chief year. I don't, do you guys do your chief years internal medicine where it's like after the fact and you're like, it's a fellowship attending position, or do you do it as residents?
My place did it where in your last year of residency, the faculty and the other residents elected four chief residents to do call schedules and stuff. But
Yeah,
no, you're
that's
just
it.
in the mix like everybody else. You're not, it's not like you're not above everybody else in attending chief resident, medicine resident.
Cool. That's exactly how psychiatry is too. But a few programs have the option that you can do it as a third year rather than a fourth year. I did that, and I'm not making the call schedule. I'm not doing all these administrative stuffs starting to ease up a little bit in residency. I have a lot more time, and I wanted to do some different stuff. I had been talking about doing stand up for a long time and was way too scared to do it several years. And I gave a best man speech at a wedding between third and fourth year, right around then. And my wife signed me up for a class. She said, "You're going to do this. Enough's enough. I'm sick and tired of hearing you saying you're going to do it and not going to do it. And you just made this room of people laugh, and that's it." So, yeah, that was it. And I, yeah, it's awesome. I love it. It's
So
amazing.
I guess your first set, like, was it an open mic or where was it?
So yeah, my first set was probably at an open mic. I'd already started writing for the class, but I don't do any of the jokes. I did that. Yeah. Like not even close to that. I remember I like it was just like writing stupid shit. I did like an act out of like my testicles. Like it was very like lowbrow, dumb, like nothing meaningful about me whatsoever. Yeah, yeah. But yeah. And then I did a show at the end of the class at Flappers, which is a comedy club in Burbank. And yeah, I actually, my dad happened to be in town, and my father-in-law, I think, came down from Santa Barbara,
Mm.
and I said some ridiculous things in front of them. Yeah, yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing at the talking through your test.
yeah. I know it's a great concept.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. I still don't know if there's a testicular act out. That was what the coach said to me at the time is you might be the only one doing this if you're out there.
You're very open about your own OCD
Yeah,
and things going on, things that you and your wife are talking about, being a parent. And
yeah.
then you have another vein where you talk about being a physician. Do I have that?
Yeah. I think in a nutshell, like, yeah, talking about the weirdness of being a doctor, talking about my own mental health, my wife's mental health, and what it's like raising the kids there. Yeah.
Now, your wife is also a therapist, correct?
She is also a therapist. All put her on blast, also has OCD. Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, different in the way it manifests there. But
that house
yeah.
must be spotless.
I come from a long line of hoarders, and so
Hmm.
it's a mixed bag here. Yeah,
Okay.
around 50-50. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you do you have a comedic influence? Are you trying to emulate somebody? Who are some of your comedic idols growing
Yeah,
up?
great question. When I think about like my own mental health and kind of exploring that in my brain, I love Maria Bamford is somebody who's really good. She has OCD. She talks a lot about mental health. She's somebody who you can see these gears turning in very odd, eccentric ways and takes you on this journey this entire time. And I love that. I think that is something that I think a lot about. Yeah, I think for mental health stuff, she's top of the top in terms of how I think about that. For like the dad stuff, Chad Daniels, Dan Cummins, they're both like pretty decent big names, but yeah, they're like dads from Pacific Northwest or Minnesota talking about all the ridiculous stuff that their kids are doing and saying, I think like it's so similar in the vein to Louis C.K. I'm not as much of a fan of his now for obvious reasons, but yeah, the similar in that way.
It's hard for me to think of who you remind me of. Maybe like a Mitch Hedberg because the dry, like
The
monotone
deadpan.
delivery.
Yeah.
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 And but in terms of you do a lot of self-deprecating stuff. I guess you didn't know Jews came in this size, some other stuff.
Every joke has a victim. And I think it's a lot easier for me, both unfortunately, the way my mind goes just
Hmm.
naturally, and then also that comfort level of like telling jokes. It goes to me being the victim more often. Like I think that people often will ask me, "Oh, you must see some ridiculous stuff in your work. You must have so many stories you can tell up on stage." And yes and no. I see some really wild things. I have seen some really wild things, but it doesn't feel comfortable to tell jokes about patients punching down, making fundamental illness in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so I like the self-deprecating side a lot more. And that's
Hmm.
always been where my humor's been.
Yeah, and I would think that in terms of things that you could say, how would the patient feel if you're telling a story and they can tell that it's them? And I think it ruins your rapport that you have with people if they're always going to be concerned that this is going to end up on stage.
Absolutely. Yeah, it would, and I'd be thinking about that the entire time. So I wouldn't
Hmm.
be able to tell an authentic joke. I wouldn't be behind it in any way. It really pushes up against the oath that we take as physicians to consider that. And that's why I really stay far away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like even if I'm talking about a patient interaction, I'm talking about it as it relates to me being the
Hmm.
fool in the room. Yeah.
So your patients must bring this up to you, don't they?
I'm trying to think when they first started finding me on social media. It was probably like 3 or 4 years ago now. I did not know how to handle it at first. And what I started saying to them is, first of all, thankfully, nobody I know that would be a danger to me in any way, to my
Hmm.
family that I know of has found me there. And
Mm.
so that's the one thing that I'll say with that. It is usually people with depression, anxiety who are finding me there and who are not dealing with a thought disorder where that I might get involved in some sort of delusion or my family. So that's the
Hmm.
first thing. But yeah, people start finding me. They either would bring it up in session, some of them would message me on social media. And what I would really just say, I would bring it up in session with them, is I would just say, you I'm totally fine if you know this about me. I talk a lot about my own mental health, my own mental illness, and I make a lot of jokes about these things. It may change the way you view me, and I just want you to know that I would only encourage you to look at my things if you're feeling comfortable enough with that type of process there. And
Hmm.
that's usually how I'll lay that out. I'll tell him, yeah, don't message me on social media. I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to do any of those things there
Mm.
and set that boundary. And it's gone well. I think the weird, sometimes like I was in like a Santa Barbara comedy festival 2 years ago where they put like a clip of me up on the television, like local news. And that was weird in terms
Yeah.
of see, like people would be like, oh, I saw you there. And I was explaining, I use a stage name so that way it's not like the first thing people find when they're Googling me. It's my mom's last name for what it's
Yeah.
worth. And yeah, still like I have this ridiculous hair. I'm gigantic. And so
Yeah.
like it's like pretty hard to
You
miss
can't
me.
hide.
Yeah, exactly. The last name only does so much. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, what are you hoping to happen with the comedy career? Are you looking to get out of medicine, or is it just going to be like remain like a hobby?
Gosh, it's a good question. I'm not looking to get out of medicine. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
I love being a psychiatrist. I'm a much better psychiatrist than I am a comedian. And it and I think that they both fuel each other in really nice ways. And so I think that always I will be moving and trying to find that right balance for me, and that may change in terms of that there. I find that I am not as happy, energetic. I know it's funny, I'm low energy already, but I'm not as super, I'm not in that place if I'm not doing comedy. And if I'm not in that type of place, if I'm not being my best self internally, I'm not going to bring my best self to medicine. And I think like medicine is fortunately or unfortunately so much of my life at this point. Like
Yeah.
we want to strike that balance with family and hobbies and all those things, but like even when you're starting out as an attending, you've already put in so much of your life to this there. Like I'm a super young guy. I started medical school at 14 years ago. So like it already there's just so much that's been involved there. And yeah, I think that's one of the best ways to provide fruit to telling jokes to that content. I tell jokes about what happens to me, and I think it's the best way to be authentic.
Yeah, we get into this discussion a lot, me and my other doctor friends, is if you won the lottery, would you still go to work? And pretty much everybody says yes. And I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
If I became obscenely wealthy overnight, I don't know that I would take call anymore, but I would still go to work because and I'm sure there's patients that you enjoy interacting with. There's people that you like, your coworkers that you enjoy being with. And
Yeah.
I would miss that. I feel the same way.
Yeah. But I do think that's right. Yeah. Might not take call, take some more vacation, lower your
Hmm.
caseload, whatever it is with that there. But yeah, I watch so many psychiatrists refuse to retire well into their 80s, really.
Hmm.
And it's pretty wild to see.
Now, you mentioned that you're a better psychiatrist than you're a comedian. When you
Yeah.
were coming up in medical training, what medical specialty do you think you would have been the worst at?
That's a
Because
great question.
mine is definitely psychiatry.
God, I'd be a terrible surgeon in general. I'm very like good at little tiny micro projects, do a lot of origami, other things like
Hmm.
that. But my gross motor coordination is subpar. It always
Yeah.
has been. I used to think that big people were always more uncoordinated, and it can be, but not always the case.
Hmm.
But I always thought that because I was the biggest and most uncoordinated. Yeah, I think doing any type of procedure, I'd be really bad at. Trying to think what I'd be the worst at, though. I feel like cardiothoracic. Like I
Okay.
remember like or even like vascular, where I did my surgical rotations like 8 weeks with a vascular surgeon.
Hmm.
But yeah, when I was with the CT guys, I was always like, I felt like I was not in the room, basically. Yeah, they were
Hmm.
just doing their own stuff, ripping up the thorax, doing all that there. So yeah, I think that would be probably that. Yeah. Other than psychiatry, what would it be for you?
I need to do things with my hands.
Mhm.
And that's why I went into anesthesia. So if you ask me other than psychiatry, it may be like just general pediatrics.
Mhm.
It's a lot of the same stuff, sniffles, well child visits, vaccines. And no, I couldn't. It would have driven me insane.
Yeah, that definitely crossed my mind when I was thinking about what would be the worst. And yeah,
Hmm.
I wouldn't want to do it one bit. Yeah.
Let's talk about kids for a bit. You're a father of two, correct?
Yeah, I got two.
And do the boys like your jokes? Do they think you're funny?
So I got a 4-year-old just turned 4, and my other one is like 7 months. So the 7-month-old, he this kid is the smiliest kid. Like with my cheery disposition, I know you would think that everybody would be smiley here. I don't know if you've seen my wife's content, but she's zany and all over the place
Hmm.
and high energy. But so this kid is my wife. He's just smiling all the time, super happy. So he thinks I'm funny, but he's a 7-month-old, so he doesn't really know any better. He's still an idiot. But the 4-year-old, I'm kidding with that, by the way. I want to be really
Yeah.
clear.
No.
The 4-year-old, he does think I'm funny. Does he think I'm funny for the reasons that other people think I'm funny? Probably not, but
Hmm.
that kid is clever. Like he's super tricky. I got to figure out how to. One of Chad Daniels talks about his like 14-year-old ripping into the other comedians in the green room and like saying, "Oh, he's going to be totally okay. I sharpen the
Hmm.
stick. I know how it pokes," is the joke. I got to figure out how to sharpen that stick and
Hmm.
hone his talent there. Yeah. Yeah.
Do
But
you try jokes out on the 4-year-old? They may be a little heady.
not yet. Yeah. I'm already, I don't want to say too smart, but too heady for
Hmm.
my own good a lot of times. And so I think that, yeah, I don't really try any out on him yet, but he has seen me on stage. Usually if I'm like hosting something, or
Hmm.
I used to do a lot of hosting a trivia and other things there, and he would come up and he loves it. He thinks it's the coolest thing in the world. He also thinks that my job is some sort of amalgam of psychiatry and comedy.
I think there may actually be something in that,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
love line kind of thing.
A absolutely. It is like a love line, his vision of it. He thinks I go into work, see sad people, tell them jokes, and make them
Hmm.
feel better. And yeah, it's adorable.
If
It's very
only.
wrong. Yeah.
I wanted to bring this up to you all. You also have a podcast of your own. I think it's called Sundays with Sam.
Yeah. Me and Sam
What's that
Bear.
all about?
It is basically just me and Sam, who is my best friend here in Santa Barbara. Sam Bear, comedian. I'm actually officiating her wedding in a couple months. And so we're just riffing.
Yeah,
And a lot of that is once again us making fun of me,
yeah.
ripping into me. But yeah, just talking about different topics. I think we like to have some elements that are mental health based and focused. Part of that is just like what we talk about in comedy anyway with those things. But yeah, it's just hanging out right here in the guest room.
Yeah, I listened to a little, and I must say that once you now that you've got the microphones, it's a huge
Oh
improvement.
my God. It was terrible. It was,
Hmm.
the sound was, yeah, don't, if you're listening, don't even listen to the, I don't know, first 7 or 8
Yeah.
episodes, things like that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, but it's it's nice, and it's just two comedians riffing, and I guess that's a good way to put out content, but also come up with jokes or something might spark something. Did you watch that comedy movie? It was like Brian Posehn and Patton Oswalt. It was like the Kings of, it's not the Kings of Comedy, but
Oh, yeah. 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 I have not seen it, but I have seen the trailer for it.
it's just,
What,
what struck me about the little bit of the podcast that I listened to is it reminded me of that because they have all these cut scenes where they'll go into like a diner or something and they'll just start analyzing something and riffing on it down to the minutia. And it finally clicked for me. It's like, oh, that's how they do this. They're never not on, and they're always looking for some angle, and that angle may spark something that becomes a joke, and that's something that they can put on stage. And that's
Absolutely.
the vibe that I got from the podcast that I listened to, is
Awesome.
you just trying to squeeze the comedy out of just about anything.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what it is. And that's how I write. I think comedy's complaints and confessions, and then you punch it up. Yeah, I get in down to the brass tacks of everything. It's pretty cool.
All right, Sam, it's time for the thank you note portion of the podcast. Are you a thank you note writer?
This is one of my biggest shortcomings. So I'm super happy you're on here. You might be able to help me out. The I have always been surrounded by people who are thank you note people. My dad, mom, grandparents, big thank you note people. My wife is a huge thank you note person. I would like to be a huge thank you note person. And do you know what prevents me from being a huge thank you note person?
I I can't even. I think I know. Is it because do you try to be funny or you try to use it? No. What
No,
is it?
I am super anxious about it. And it gets in an OCD loop almost immediately
Okay.
with that there.
What
And
like specifically or
no, it's not as magical thinking based as a lot of the other OCD stuff.
Hmm.
And it's more kind of a compulsive rumination that can lead to like basically a compulsive procrastination that then
Mm.
fuels more compulsive rumination and so on and so forth there. And eventually I just feel so ashamed by the time I have the ability to break out of
Mm.
that. I've written a bunch of those thank you notes and then haven't actually sent them because of that.
Wow.
Yeah, super messed up.
I kind of feel like a dick for bringing you. Did I trigger you? I asked you to
No,
write.
this is fantastic. This has been like, and you know how messed up I am already from me talking about myself. This is one of the worst messed up parts about me. So you're here to heal me. Yeah,
Man,
you're gonna, do you do any ECT? You're gonna put me under and shock my brain.
I've done it in the past.
Yeah.
I think my one takeaway from my psych rotation is our guy was that he said, if I ever get into a depressive funk that I cannot get out of, shock me.
Told my wife. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If I get into that spot, you absolutely. Yeah.
And so I would be open to it if I ever got into a depressive funk. That
Yeah.
I think it's very underutilized just because of the stigma that's around it.
Yeah, I think people just see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is like wrong like a decade before the book was even written. Like yeah,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
What were we talking about?
Thank you notes.
Thank you
My
notes.
trauma.
So you don't write them. You would like to write them, but the OCD gets in the way. Everybody else around you writes them. Do your kids write them, or does your 4-year-old write them at the behest of his
Um,
mom?
the we will do a thank you note type thing. He can't
Hmm.
actually write them yet. He's not,
Yeah.
yeah, he hasn't mastered the language, but when he does, he'll be writing them on his own.
I have
Yeah.
a 4-year-old as well, and I'll
Oh,
write it
nice.
for her, and then then on the card she'll write she'll draw a picture or something like of her with the gift or something.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't even know how. Well, you asked me about my kids, your kids there. You don't have to tell me, actually. But you
I
have a
have
4-year-old. Is
one.
that your
I only have one. I
only?
have a daughter.
Oh, nice.
She's
That's awesome.
4, and she's quite precocious, but
Nice.
she's very spoiled being an only
Yeah.
child.
What month was she born, if you don't mind me asking?
August.
August. Okay. Pandemic came pretty quick there. So,
Oh yeah, so we had 1 or 2 months, and then all of a sudden there were reports, and then
yep.
December we started having it. I think late December we had it in one of the hospitals I worked at. Do you remember the Ebola scare? That's the
Yeah.
hospital I primarily work at.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Hmm.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, your life, did you have to, I know we're getting off topic here, but did you have to cover were you one of those people that had to cover like med floors or do you like work in the ICU or anything like that? I guess you probably do work in the ICU, but
Yeah, I wasn't. There were some people that would just show up to work and they would get into PPE and they'd stay that way for 6 hours or something. And they were just there to go to the ER and intubate or go to the ICU and intubate. I
wow.
didn't have to do any of that. I live in Texas, so there were plenty of hospitals that were just like this COVID stuff. We're
Uh,
charging ahead. So
got it.
we took a huge hit in revenue, but there were still a few cases to keep us busy. It was ridiculous, like intubating people in a plastic box and stuff. It's just,
Oh,
it was nuts.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like, that, that was what I was telling with people of why being an outpatient psychiatrist was the best job in medicine during the pandemic. It didn't affect your patient flow at all, and you're the only person who's getting more distanced from your patients.
I knew of some psychiatrists that like had increased, like everybody else is taking these huge hits in revenue and they were making money hand over fist because
Yeah. Yeah.
they just lined up the Zoom calls.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't see any like real big increase in my revenue, but it's my waiting list is disgusting because of Medicare stuff.
You must be one of 2 or 3 people in Santa Barbara that take it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awful.
Yeah. Is that like a requirement of where you work or is that like your charitable? spirit
It,
coming
it
through.
oh, it's a requirement of where I work. But there's some element, I wouldn't say it's charitable, but there's still a selfish element to it. This is the best way where I am right now, where I can practice the type of medicine I want to practice. I'm not going to push through my patients unnecessarily, not restricted by like a capitated model or anything else like that and what I can do. And I still take insurance. And this is really the best place that I could figure out to do that,
Hmm.
which is nice. Yeah. And I don't have the ability to run my own practice and take Medicare. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. All right, back on top. So I wrote you a
Thank you,
thank
Nose.
you note, Sam.
Oh,
It says, "Dear Sam, thank you for sharing your profession, your family, your life, and your neuroses with the world. It's always a joy when you post a new video. It never fails to amuse me. There are lots of doctors who try to entertain on social media. You're one of the few with the goods to back it up. Your talent, family, and head of hair are enviable to many. Thanks for all of the honest content, Travis."
Travis, thank you so much. I
Yeah,
really
man, I
appreciate
really
that.
enjoy your stuff. You had a joke, I think it was today or yesterday. It was my son asked me why I never step on a crack, and I didn't have the heart to tell him it's the reason why he's still alive.
Yeah. Yeah. He literally yesterday we're on a walk and he's following me up there and
Hmm.
he's, Daddy, why do you avoid the cracks? And I just told him it's complicated and left it at that. That's actually what I did. But I texted my best friends, and that already is the punchline of some of my other jokes. So keeping them alive for my OCD stuff. He threw it out there, and yeah, I just put it together. But that's life. It's true. Yeah, yeah,
Very true.
yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed that one. That was fun.
That was
Yeah,
good. All right,
yeah.
did you bring a thank you note in?
I did not bring a thank you note in because I'm an idiot. I didn't even know that
Uh,
I was supposed to do that. I'm so
did
sorry.
I not put that in the email?
I didn't see that in the email. Yeah,
It's
I'm
I
so
have done this
sorry.
before in the past. It doesn't matter.
I'm so sorry,
Um,
Travis. The
if you want, you can if you want to like read one into your phone recorder.
I would like to do that, and I may even put it up on social media unsolicited too, because I
Okay.
do gotta say, if you sleep for a second, very few people can engage in all aspects of my content. It's very tough for a lot of people to handle that because it is medical, it is turning it on its head, and it seems like you appreciate all aspects of that. The fact that you tag that stuff up, fantastic. And yeah, it's been really cool interacting with you online, and I'm pumped that
Yeah,
we're
man.
getting to know each other here.
Yeah, I've very much enjoyed this. And
This is non-alcoholic. I just want to make sure.
do you drink?
Not really. Yeah, I'll have a cup. I'll probably have a beer every other month, maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I get hungover now after 2 or 3 drinks. It's really terrible.
Yeah, I like a year ago. I this was at my daughter's birthday. I guess it was a little less than a year ago, and I had a few drinks. I came to the realization that I never really liked drinking. I liked being drunk. So I just said, you know what, I'm done. I don't need to
Yeah.
drink anymore.
Oh yeah.
And it's not like a my sobriety story. It's just a waste of time.
No, I am right there with you. If I'm in a setting, I will have one from time to
Hmm.
time, but that's how I live we had 2 friends over last night, and the two of them and my wife all had some wine, had no interest, and for that
Yeah.
exact reason. Yeah.
Last question. What's the name of your first comedy special going to be?
Ooh, that is a great question. Hmm. I don't know
I
if I've ever
typically
thought of
so.
that. So I have a couple of themes that would probably
Hmm.
base off of that. I like one thing I like is it is calling it like smart and stupid.
Hmm.
And I think that like I talk about my kids being smart and stupid, 4-year-olds being smart and stupid in all the ways. I think we all are.
I
I
like
think
that.
that I like to joke that, and you might have even tagged this too. Yeah, comedians stu are smart, stupid people or stupid, smart people, and
Yeah.
psychiatrists or doctors are the other way around. They're all
Hmm.
smart and stupid at the same time. And so I think that would be one. I think just going with something like Shrink could be super fun too.
Yeah.
Just keep it straight to like messing with psychiatry. But yeah, I think something in that realm would be
Okay.
cool.
Smart and
Yeah.
stupid. I should have come up with one
Yeah. But
for
you're
you.
not satisfied with that one.
But Mark Maron already did Thinky Pain, which would I think
Mhm.
would have been a good one for you.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
I'll DM it to you. I'll think about it. All right,
Yeah.
man. Sam Silverman.
Travis,
That's a
I'm going to give you a
podcast.
thank you note. It's embarrassing. You know what this is good for?
What?
It's going to be good for me pushing through my own anxiety
Mm-hmm.
to put out this thank you note for you. And I will.
All right. Hey guys, Travis here. A few weeks after I recorded this episode, Sam actually did write me a thank you note, and he read it for his audience on his Instagram page. He sent me the video, and so I'll link the audio and the video here now. Enjoy.
So I'm a fool because I went on to Travis McVeigh's Thank You Notes podcast and I didn't bring a thank you note, which apparently you're supposed to do. Not going to make up excuses right now. I already said those on the podcast. You can listen to them. But I did want to give a belated thank you note to Travis 2 weeks later. So here it is. Travis, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I really enjoyed connecting over social media, and I am so thankful that your actions during the podcast recording didn't tarnish my impression of you. As you know, doctors are insufferable people, and it has been so nice to meet one like you, who is a little bit more tolerable. But in all seriousness, I had a blast. You all will find out in the episode that I have a lot of anxiety about thank you notes, and I really hope I can start writing more of them, overcome these anxious spirals that prevent me from doing that, and mend the relationships I've broken with a lack of thank you notes. So Travis, thank you so much. I can't wait to create some more content with you and grow our friendship. Sam.
I want to give a big thank you to Sam for coming on the show. I really enjoyed our talk. Please follow him on the socials. All of the information for that will be in the show notes. And thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. Follow me on the socials and interact with the show. And we'll see you next time.
Are you doing all right? I think I'm almost good. Are you doing all right? I think I'm almost better. Yeah. About as good. About as good as it gets anymore.